In today's lesson, we will continue with the section of laws that deal with Tkiyas Shofar. After doing the preparation in which each person prepares himself mentally and emotionally for the great event of the blowing of the shofar as discussed in the previous lesson, the congregation, the chazan and the congregation in unison begin reading the psalm of Lamnatseach Livnei Koirach, which is a kapitel from Tehillim. This kapitel is recited a total of 7 times consecutively, and its meaning is brought down in the Siddur of Yaakov Koppel, as well as the Aleph Hamagin and Shara Koilel, that the recital of this part of Tehillim, this kapitel of Tehillim 7 times, has the ability to turn the attribute of judgment of Hashem into the attribute of mercy. After reciting this kapitel of Tehillim, the chazan then recites a series of verses which spell out the words Kras Satan, Tir the Satan, and the congregation repeats verse by verse after the chazan. After this, the Baltikeya and the congregation together recite the Hiratzon prayer that's recited prior to the blessings of blowing the shofar. We will now begin discussing the brachas that are recited prior to the blowing of the shofar. So the nusach of the bracha, the blessing that we recite prior to the mitzvah of shofar, as we always do before performing a mitzvah, is the bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Ha'olam Asher Kiddushanu V'Tzeisa V'Tzivanu L'Shmoya Kol Shofar. This means that Hashem has commanded us to hear the sound of the shofar. It's explained in Paiskim. The Alter Rebbe brings it in Siman Tavkuf Pei Hey Sif Dalet, that the reason we say the nusach, the dialect of the blessing, is to hear the sound of the shofar, not to blow the shofar, is because blowing the shofar is not the main mitzvah, and rather it's the hearing of the sound of the shofar that's the main mitzvah. This is evident from the following law, in which it's ruled that someone who blew the shofar but did not hear the sound properly, such as in place of an echo, then he does not fulfill his obligation. Hence we see that the main performance of this mitzvah is the hearing the sound and not the blowing. Nevertheless, if one mistakenly said L'tkoya b'shofar or Al Tkiyas Shofar, he fulfills his obligation, as the Alter Rebbe rules in Siman Tavkuf Pei Hey Sif Dalet. After the conclusion of this bracha, a second bracha is recited. This is the bracha, the blessing of Shehechiyanu. The reason why we recite Shehechiyanu is because any mitzvah that comes only on occasion receives a blessing of Shehechiyanu prior to its performance. The reason why we have to repeat the bracha of Shehechiyanu per shofar by day and the blessing of Shehechiyanu said on the night of Rosh Hashanah does not suffice is because the mitzvah of shofar only begins starting from daybreak of the day of Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, the blessing of Shehechiyanu said the previous night cannot possibly count for the blessing over the shofar. This bracha of Shehechiyanu is recited on both the first and the second day of Rosh Hashanah, following the ruling of the Alter Rebbe in chapter 600, Halacha 7, based on the Ashkenazi law as written in the Ramah, chapter 600, Halacha 3. However, the opinion of the Mechaber and of the Sfardim is that we do not recite the blessing of Shehechiyanu on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and it is hence only recited on the first day. After reciting the blessing of Shehechiyanu, the blower sounds 30 sounds of Tashrat, Tashrat, Tarat, 3 sets of Tashrat, 3 sets of Tashat, and then 3 sets of Tarat. Regarding the wearing of a new garment on the second day. So, being that the blessing of Shehechiyanu is debated on whether it should be recited on the second day, therefore, the Paiskim conclude, and the Alter Rebbe concludes this in his Shulchanaruchharav, chapter 600, Halacha 7, that by the blowing the shofar the second day, in order to avoid any doubt of the bracha, it is proper for the Baltikeya, for the person blowing, to wear a new garment that requires Shehechiyanu, and have it in mind while reciting the blessing of Shehechiyanu, thus intending to exempt it together with the mitzvah of shofar. In other words, that the Shehechiyanu that he's saying is going mainly on the shofar, but to suffice and to satisfy those opinions that argue, he intends that it also goes on the new garment. From this it's understood that a person should not mainly intend only on the garment, but he should also intend, of course, mainly on the mitzvah. In the event that one does not have a new garment available, as is very common by a person that is blowing shofar in various settings on the second day, such as when going on Mivtzayim, that even if he started off with a new garment, it has already received its shechiyanu by his first set of blows. Nevertheless, he may continue and say both brachas, even though he does not have a new garment, as the main ruling is that we say the bracha of shechiyanu even on the second day. And the wearing of a new garment is only as an extra satisfaction for those poskim that argue that shechiyanu is not to be recited. It does not suffice for a listener to wear a new garment, but rather specifically the blower is about to as the one to wear the new garment. Sfardim, as we already mentioned, do not say shechiyanu on the second day, and therefore, if a Sfardi is davening by an Ashkenazi minyan, some poskim rule that he should not answer Amen after the bracha of shechiyanu, as this constitutes a hefsek. Similarly, if on the second day one is on the side and he's blowing shofar for a man of Sephardic origin, he is not to say the bracha of shechiyanu on his behalf. Similarly, if on the second day of Rosh Hashanah a man of Sephardic origin is blowing shofar for someone of Ashkenazi origin, he should not say the blessing of shechiyanu for him. So was ruled in the Abiyah Omer Chelik Aleph Tshuva Chof Tes. Regarding the type of clothing that may be worn in order to suffice the shechiyanu of shofar to be covered as well over the clothing. So the question is, which clothing require the bracha of shechiyanu? So in general, during the year, the Alter Rebbe rules in Seder Birchas Hanenin, Perek Yud Beis, Halacha Hey, that the blessing of shechiyanu on clothing may only be recited of clothing over clothing of importance that a person rejoices over, such as one who purchases a new kapata, a talis gadol, a suit, over clothing that are not of much importance, shechiyanu may not be said over them. Thus, we never say shechiyanu over buying new shirts, new pants, shoes, or undergarments. And this applies towards all people, even a pauper, that even if a pauper bought these clothing and rejoiced over them, he would still not say a bracha. Nevertheless, regarding the shechiyanu of the second day of Rosh Hashanah, many are accustomed to be lenient, not to specifically have a new kapata or talis gadol, but to use any new clothing, even a new shirt or even a new yarmulke and the like, that we normally don't say shechiyanu over during the year. This custom was also seemingly witnessed by the Rebbe, who would have a new scarf or handkerchief as the new clothing for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, for the blowing of the second day, and this was also the custom witnessed by the Rebbe Rashab. This custom does have a halachic basis, as even though we don't say shechiyanu over it during the rest of the year, this doesn't mean that there aren't sides to permit saying shechiyanu over it. And since in any event, we mainly rule that on the second day of Rosh Hashanah shechiyanu may be recited, it therefore suffices to specifically take a clothing that we normally don't say shechiyanu during the year, just in order to fulfill our obligation according to all opinions. Actually, an advantage of doing so, of taking a clothing that we don't say normally shechiyanu, such as buying a new yarmulke and the like, is that the halacha is that when you buy a clothing that requires shechiyanu, you have to say the bracha as soon as you purchase the item. And only if the item needs further mending can you delay the bracha. So if someone were to buy a new kapata with intention that it should be the new clothing of shechiyanu by blowing shofar, he would have to say the bracha as soon as he buys the kapata. So therefore, the custom amongst many is simply to use an item that we don't say shechiyanu over normally, but it suffices for the second day. Nonetheless, there are poskim that say the Mata Ephraim in Siman Tafresh Sivkot and Yud Aleph, that one should use a clothing that we always make a bracha on of shechiyanu during the year due to its importance. If one already wore a certain item, then shechiyanu may no longer be recited over it, even if he did not yet say it the first time. This is with exception if someone wore the item and then took it off with intent to re-wear within close proximity. In which case, if he put it on in close proximity, then he may once again say shechiyanu. So practically, if the Baal Tekeah put on a new yarmulke in the beginning of Shachris, he can still say the Shechiyanu while he's still wearing it. But if he removed it without intent to put back on right away, and then he put it back on, Shechiyanu will no longer cover the yarmulke.